This is Duke University.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be that you don't have to know exactly what you're going to be doing when you're 55 and thinking about retirement right when you graduate. I think that you are really young, and I've realized that going right to law school after undergrad, that some people have had all of these great life opportunities that I feel like maybe I might have missed out a little bit on. Some of them have done things from work for the government to just travel to work for the Peace Corps to work for companies to teaching to anything, and you do have time to decide, and the job that you get doesn't have to be the one that you do for the next 30 years.
Every time that I was kind of rejected from one, I tried to find two more to apply to, and that was kind of my motto, to get mine out there as much as possible. Did all the career fairs, never really had too much success there, but the other thing too is, now having worked on the other side, is you have to really be diligent about following up on these things, because it's really easy for someone, they're not just a full-time, their job isn't just to hire people, they're usually doing something else as well, so keep following up because they're busy as well.
Don't think of one job as the only thing that will make you happy, the only job you can see. It's kind of like, say you're online dating. If you are looking just at this one person and you can't think about anything else, you're setting yourself up to fail and be disappointed, even if it does work out. So constantly be on the lookout. Don't discount jobs you think might not be for you. Interview, see how that goes. And then if it doesn't work out, try to figure out why.
One thing to keep in mind as you're going through your career search is to keep an open mind and just stay energetic as much as possible. You may not know what your passion is right now. I know I didn't at the start of my senior year, but through talking to people, actively getting involved in your career search will kind of help you discover what that might be. But stay energetic.
I learned how persistent I could be. I'm known to be a stubborn person, but I realized how I could apply that to my career path and looking for jobs, because I knew that I was my biggest advocate, and to really find a job I had to put myself out there for people to see. And part of that was really showing that I'm dedicated to what I want to become, and in this case I wanted to be a college administrator down the road. And so finding that first job, I just had to show that I was stubborn, I was persistent, and that was a quality that a lot of interviews really valued, because it showed that this is something I wanted to do.
In the search process, I really found out that I had, you take these college classes, but you really find out is that Duke prepares you not only, technically as an engineer, but what you find out is that the mindset and the tenacity that you need in this job market to find a job, Duke really does adequately prepare you for. You're faced with a lot of rejection, a lot of failures before you find that you only need to succeed once, and you need to keep that in mind. And Duke really kind of prepared me for that, both on the athletic field as well as in engineering.
I would say be persistent and don't settle. That's another thing I learned about myself in my search, is that I'm really optimistic, and I really can envision myself in different situations, and so every job opportunity would be the one. Really take your time, figure out what your needs are for the job, and be interviewing the company or the role as much as they're interviewing you, because that first step is so important. So don't get overwhelmed with all the possibilities. Really think about what you want and what you need for your career.
I learned that I am very, very organized. And when you have to apply to a large number of programs, large number of schools, you have to put all that together. In writing my personal statements, I actually learned that I'm pretty fun, and I think I did have a pretty good, well-rounded experience at Duke, which I think some of the people, at least the ones that I knew from high school who were doing the same thing, who had gone to different schools, maybe didn't have as much to write about in personal statements, or as many non-academic things to talk about during their interviews, and I was really happy about that.
Heading into my senior year, I had just finished an internship at Skanska Construction, doing construction management work there. And it was a great internship, but it just so happened that they didn't really have any spots for me to come on full time once I graduated. So, you know, I kind of had to start my career search over again from scratch, which was difficult. But, you know, I think the biggest challenge for me was not necessarily knowing exactly what kind of field. I knew I wanted to do something related to engineering, whether it was actually hands-on or whether it was sales or management, something along those lines. But so the biggest challenge for me was to really figure out what industries I wanted to be a part of.
So work and pleasure don't always have to be separate. I was in Inside Joke, the sketch comedy group on campus, and obviously it's a blast. If you've ever been to a show, you know how much fun it is to perform, but also behind the scenes, writing and concepting. And as much as I wished I were a writer, I'm really not cut out for it. But in my role as creative director, I found that I was really good at sort of corralling the purely creative people who would sort of be bouncing off the walls with these ideas and really helping corral those and hone them into actionable skits. And that's a lot of what I do now, actually, is working with people who are much more creative than I could ever hope to be, but really trying to apply that to consumers and the market and help bring those two worlds together.
So I volunteered at the Emily K Center. I tutored for 3 years. I think I stuck with it for quite a long time. One-on-one tutoring. I really loved working with the kids. I realized that service and helping people was really a huge part of me. And I realized that with these kids, a lot of times they have a lot of academic problems. That's why we're here. We're there to help them with their homework and trying to sort through lesson plans. But they also had a lot of health problems that I couldn't help them with because I wasn't trained. And I realized I was increasingly curious about that.
What really defined what my career path became was my co-curricular activities, and I was really into campus involvement. I was in multiple groups, and one of which was the FAC program, which really allowed me to explore mentorship from being an upperclassman level, but also being mentored by older students and by university administrators. And that experience really defined what I wanted to do, simply because I had realized along the way in a separate venue of reflection that I wanted to be able to help people. And personal reflection plus co-curricular activities really came together and molded the career path that I'm on now.
I always thought that I would do something kind of engineering related. I'd never heard of 3 Phoenix really until late in my senior year. So I never thought I would end up at a company I'd never heard of. I'd always kind of seen myself as part of one of maybe the big companies, but it's been a great experience for me, especially working in a small company. So it was a great fit for me, and I can really say that whether it's a big company, small company, or what they do too, it's really important that you mesh with the people that are there.
When you're trying to find out about a job, it's not simply about the job duties that you're signing up for. You have to take in sort of the work-life balance. For example, like, I really value that my job is 8 to 5, that I can leave my work at work, come home, and enjoy like a rich personal life, but that my work life is also very rich and deep in that way as well. Whereas I have a friend, and tonight my roommate, who's in consulting, and she's kind of working through that struggle where her work is her life, and that was something she hadn't known before she had gone in the field. And this is something, while talking to other fellow alums, that was one thing they hadn't researched or looked into.
One thing I would say is don't be afraid of asking for help. Don't be afraid of your contacts. Sometimes I can see people having guilt about taking advantage of people they know or people their parents set them up with. You don't have to do this on your own, and you still have to perform when you're in the job, so don't be afraid of the competitive edge and taking advantage of the help if you're given it.
What I wish I had known as a senior was the power of networking. It's something students are told throughout their Duke career, even the minute that they start through right before the job process begins. But once you actually get into it, you realize that your friends and people that you interact with open the doors to like a wide variety of other people. And I hadn't realized that person X would know person Y, and they would be able to help me build those connections down the road. And that was one thing I wish I had truly recognized.
Oh, networking. That word made me want to puke, and I don't know what it is about it. I think just Making sure to change, if that's what your situation is like, you hate the word networking, change it to a different word and just realize that it's talking to people and forming relationships. It doesn't have to be that you're speaking to the CEO of a company and you're trying to get a job with someone. It's making connections and figuring out what got people to where they are now. I wish I'd known that not everybody knows what they want to do, and even if they say they do, they may not know. You hear a lot from people, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to consulting, I want to do business, I want to do finance, I want to do whatever. And they might be going through the same questioning that you are, if you are. So just knowing that not everybody knows what they want to do after graduation, and nothing is set in stone also is a really big thing that I wish I had known earlier.
For seniors who are trying to figure out, what's next for them, whether it's grad school, career, I think my biggest advice really is be patient. Realize that it's not a race to hurry up and get employed, and really try to think about and take some time and think about what you want to do. Try to come up with a plan if you can. And maybe that's, I want to take a year off before deciding, and that's okay. But just whatever it is, come up with that plan, how you're going to achieve it, and then, do your best to stick to that.
If you're unsure about your postgraduate plans, first thing to do, an idea is to get an appointment with somebody at the Career Center, speak to a professor that you may have formed a great relationship with before, and ask around your classmates what led them to their decisions. Or if you know a graduate from your sorority, fraternity, sports team, and you are curious about what led them to their decision, or what path they took to get to where they are, ask around.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.